Hey guys, Dr. Gonzo here. Well, it's the 22nd of the month, which means this came in today. My next retro game treasure box. So we're going to go ahead and crack this open and see what kind of cool stuff they sent us this month. But also, I want to show you guys some things that I found on my last couple retro game hunts. I went up and did a circuit around the Northern Maryland, PA area. Found some really cool stuff that I want to show off to you guys. So yeah, let's take a look. Okay, so before we get to this, we're going to show off some stuff that I got on a retro game hunt. So first I want to give some shout outs. This was a copy of Mega Man Extreme for the Game Boy Color. This was sent to me by a friend of mine on Facebook, Matt McIntyre. He does a game service called Rare Find It. Finds a bunch of rare stuff. He sent me this as kind of a bit of a freebie. So yeah, this was really cool. I've been hunting for this for a while. Now there were actually two Mega Man Extreme games released. One was this one here, which could be played on the Game Boy Color or on a regular Game Boy. And then there was also Mega Man Extreme 2, which was released exclusively for the Game Boy Color and had that transparent case that Game Boy Color only games had. So I got that as well. I actually got that before this one. So this is really cool, so thank you, Matt. Okay. And then the next big find was this here. This is Final Fantasy II on the Famicom, Japanese Final Fantasy II. Now, I actually found this. I stumbled across this. I found this at a Goodwill in Glen Burnie, and I wasn't even going in looking for video games. I was actually going in looking for an office chair. Didn't find one, but that's neither here nor there. And I found this just sitting on the shelf next to some PS2 games. It was only about $5. So I snatched it up. But yeah, Japanese Final Fantasy II. I'm looking forward to finding a translation patch for this and playing it on my Retron 5. Really looking forward to that. Okay. Alright, so then there's a bunch of different places that I went previously for, video game hunting. So I'm going to show off, I got business cards on some of them, so I'm going to show off the couple of those places. So the first place that I went to that I actually have a card for is in Media, Pennsylvania, and it's Game and DVD Exchange. So here's their card with their number there. It's really neat little place, a lot of rare stuff to find. And while I was there, I picked up, let's dig it up out of the pile here. It's actually on the bottom of the stack. Picked up Haunting Ground for PS2. This is a really hard game to find. It's a Capcom survival horror game. PlayStation 2 horror game is pretty much universal code for rare as shit. But this one I've been really hunting for a very long time. It's a neat little game. You play a lost girl in an abandoned castle, and your only companion / defense is a little dog. And fun fact, this game actually exists in the same fictional universe as the Resident Evil series. Those of you who've played Resident Evil 4, you'll remember near the beginning of the game you can rescue a small white dog that's caught in a bear trap. Well, that dog is actually Huey, the companion animal, the companion dog from this game. So Capcom has actually gone out and said that they're the same dog. So this is this exists this is technically a Resident Evil spin-off, I guess you could say. But it's a really fun little game. I played a friend's copy years and years ago, and I've been hunting for one for years. And I finally found one up at Game and DVD Exchange and picked it up from them. Cost me a pretty penny too. So, and while I was up there, let me put this off to the side. I also picked up a copy of Fatal Frame 2, Crimson Butterfly. This is the director's cut. Again, another one that's really hard to find, and this is one of those rare horror games that still scares the ever-living shit out of me. It's very rare that I will do a playthrough of this game, or any of the Fatal Frame games, really, without having at least one moment where I just jump out of my seat. So yeah, I might do, if I decide to get into Let's Plays, I might do something with this over the Halloween season. So that's really cool. And then, I didn't pick this up at the same place, but I also found a copy of the first Fatal Frame for the PlayStation 2 while I was out hitting up a flea market. And this is one I haven't played, so I'm really looking forward to trying this out. And then at the same place that I found that, I found, finally, to complete my PlayStation 1 Resident Evil collection, a copy of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis for the PlayStation. So yeah, I finally have the full set. I've also got the full set on the GameCube, but it's like, you know, if you're gonna collect PlayStation games, you gotta have the Resident Evil series. So, you know, that's the last one that I was missing. Okay. So then the next major place that I went to that I have a card for is this place here, Game Junkies. They're located in a kind of a district of Philadelphia. There's their card. So yeah, definitely check them out. They got a lot of really cool stuff up there, and it's actually there that I found this little beauty. This is Lunar, the Silver Star for Sega CD. And this is a game that it's been one of my holy grails, because I have the second one, Eternal Blue, for Sega CD, and I've also got the remakes on the PlayStation 1. This is the only one that I need to have all of the Lunar games. This is the very first one, and one of the things that I think is really notable about it is that the jewel case is still in the original jewel case, and the jewel case is completely undamaged. Anyone who has collected for Sega CD or Sega Saturn, because it was the same cases, will tell you these CD cases will shatter in a stiff breeze. Like, if you so much as look at these funny, they'll just explode in your hand. So to find a copy of this game, which is hard to find and expensive enough on its own, but to find one with a completely intact jewel case just made my day. So of course I snatched that up. And that's not the only Sega CD game that I snatched up. I also found this guy here, Earthworm Jim Special Edition. Now this, to me, is the definitive cut of the original Earthworm Jim. It not only includes the intestinal distress level from the Sega Genesis version, but also its own unique level, Big Broody. It also used CD quality audio as opposed to, you know, the sound that you got on the Super Nintendo or the Sega Genesis. And it actually had some redone animations for the ending that weren't present in the other console versions. So I think that this is the definitive cut of the original Earthworm Jim. The closest, I'd say the second closest that you would get would actually be getting the Earthworm Jim HD re-release that came out on Xbox Live and PlayStation Network about 5 years ago. So that was really cool. And then from the same place, I picked up, let me dig them out here, my Wii and my Wii U got some love, but for the Wii U, I picked up Xenoblade Chronicles X, which I just got into the series with the Xenoblade Chronicles 2, so I don't know a whole lot about this one, except it apparently uses mech combat, as opposed to being a straight RPG like Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, so I'm looking forward to trying this out. And then I also picked up Tokyo Mirage Missions, and I'm not sure how to pronounce that last bit. I think it's Sharp FE. As I understand it, this is sort of a crossover between Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem, of all things, with kind of a Japanese idol twist. So, you know, I'm looking forward to trying that out. Never heard of that before. So, and then these are not the games that I was reaching for. Okay, I actually had those. I don't know how that got in the stack. So, the NES got a lot of love over the course of this last trip. Found a lot of really neat stuff. So Game Junkies also yielded up Ninja Gaiden 2, which I'm really looking forward to playing. Big fan of the Ninja Gaiden games. So, one more, going back to my boy Matt, Rare Find It, along with the Mega Man Extreme, he also sent me this. This is Strider for the NES. Which I've not played this version. I also have the Sega Genesis version, which I've played through many times and thoroughly enjoyed. So I'm looking forward to squaring up the NES and Sega Genesis versions and seeing how they compare. So, and then another game that I picked up, not at Game Junkies, but a different place. I found Mega Man 5, which is the last one that I needed to complete my NES Classic Mega Man collection. Now, what's really weird about Mega Man 5 is it tends to be pretty expensive, which I don't really understand, because as I understand it, Mega Man 5 was where people kind of started to think that the series was going downhill and getting kind of samey and getting kind of tired of it. But, like, you know, I can see Mega Man 1 and 2 being really expensive. Mega Man 1 because obviously is the first game, it didn't sell all that hot, so it's kind of tough to come by. And Mega Man 2 because, you know, a lot of people consider it the best in the series. But 3, 4, and 6 tend to go for relatively cheap. I think my copy of Mega Man 6 I got for like, you know, $20. But this here I had to pay nearly $100 for. And I don't really understand why Mega Man 5 tends to go for that much, but I mean, I don't know, maybe it just didn't get a very large printing when it first came out. Okay. I'm a big Metal Gear fan, and so I picked up a copy of Snake's Revenge for the NES, which is not the same as Metal Gear 2, which was released for the MSX computers. That game actually came after this one. And actually, it was this game coming out that inspired Hideo Kojima to go back and continue the Metal Gear series himself, because this game was kind of, you know, subpar when compared to the original. So, but it's still a pretty fun game in its own right, so I'm looking forward to playing through that. Here's one that I think a lot of NES nerds are going to be really happy to see getting some love, and that's A Boy and His Blob, Trouble on Blobalonia. This game's a lot of fun. Now, the first, there's actually 2 Boy and His Blob games. The other one came out on the Wii, I want to say about 10 years ago, and it had beautiful hand-done animation, beautiful little game, and I absolutely adored it and loved it. So when I saw this out in my travels, I had to pick this up. This was picked up at a place called Game Fix, again, up in Philadelphia. I don't have their card, but it was really, really cool to find that. And at the same place, I found a copy of Maniac Mansion, which was the first game produced by Lucasfilm Games, which later became LucasArts, who later produced 100,000 different Star Wars games. So definitely looking forward to playing through that. And while we're on the subject of Lucasfilm Games, I found, wasn't produced by them, but I found the NES Star Wars game. Now this is a different version. This is the JVC Star Wars. This is different from the version that was released, from the Star Wars that was released in Japan. In that game, like the first level, you fought Darth Vader, but then if you hit him once, you turned into like a scorpion. This is the JVC Star Wars, which has a much more faithful retelling of A New Hope. So that's going to be a lot of fun to play through. Now, we're going to get kind of interesting, because I actually technically bought the same game twice, but I got Milon's Secret Castle, which is a, you know, much beloved NES game, and then I also, at the same place, this is going back to Game Junkies, I found the Japanese Famicom version. So, which you can kind of, if you actually look, I'm going to hold this up to the camera, you can see in that little bubble there, you can actually see the American, a shot from the American box art. So that's how I realized it was the same game. So I'm looking forward to comparing these two. I actually didn't intend to pick up both versions. It just kind of happened by accident. But, like, you know, a happy accident, but an accident nonetheless. So you're looking forward to trying those out. I've heard a lot of good things about Milon's Secret Castle. So, another NES treasure here. Found Ice Climber, which I'm really looking forward to playing. You know, big fan of the Ice Climbers from Smash Brothers, so getting a chance to play that's going to be fun. And then this is one that I didn't intend to pick up, but I picked up just for the dust cover when I saw it. I was like, it's Destiny. I have to have this. For those of you who were old enough to remember a time before GameStop, before the dark times, Funko Land was a store that was around in the 90s and early 2000s, and they were one of the first major game resellers in the United States. And there was one in Annapolis that God, I missed so much. Staff there, I remember being really great. They had a lot of great stuff, and it was like really cheap too, really inexpensive. You could build up quite a collection there before GameStop bought it out. The game inside is Kirby's Adventure, which is the second Kirby game ever released. This is the one that actually introduced his copy ability. And what I've actually played through some of this already, and what really impresses me about this game, it came out late in the NES's life cycle. What really impresses me is how it really pushed the NES to its limits. If I didn't know any better, I would almost swear that I was playing, you know, like a Super Nintendo game. The graphics and the visuals in this game are like just they're so close to Super Nintendo level. It's insane. I guess I really shouldn't say they're close to Super Nintendo level, but it's just the art design, you know, just excellent visuals. Like, you almost forget that you're playing, you know, an 8-bit game just because of how well done the visuals are. So we got that. All right, going back to Japanese titles here, putting aside My Own Secret Castle because I already got this one. I got this one here, Lord of King, which as I understand is, we call it Astyanax over here in America. So looking forward to picking that, putting that in and trying that out. I don't really know much of anything about that. I'm always at a disadvantage when I'm buying Famicom games because I don't speak Japanese and I don't know anything about, Japanese releases, so I'm kind of have to going on what I go with. But this one here, I got Kat to translate the title for me. It's Ninja Hattori-kun, and I know I'm not pronouncing that right, but it is it's sort of a side-scrolling platformer. It's not all that great, but it's an interesting little curiosity that I picked up from my collection. So we got that. And then this is Elysion, and it is an RPG. I'd never heard about it before. It's not part of any, established series that had found great success over here in the U.S. So, that's gonna, this will be interesting to see. Sega Genesis got some love, too, over the course of my travels since the last time we spoke. Last time I went out, I managed to pick up Golden Axe 2. Which everyone tells me the Golden Axe duology is a must-have Sega Genesis title. So I picked that up, and I was lucky enough to get it complete with manual. Manual's a little beat up, but, hey, go with what you got. I'm not someone who's totally fussed about having the extraneous stuff being in perfect condition. So, but this one that I'm about to show here, this is the real treasure of my Sega Genesis findings over the last month, and that's this guy right here, Mega Man The Wily Wars. Now, for those who are kind of confused, what, Mega Man got a Genesis release? Yeah, it did. In Japan, it was released for the Sega Genesis. This is The Wily Wars is a compilation re-release of the first 3 Mega Man games, and it only got a physical release in Japan. In the United States, it was only released on the Sega channel. God, that dates me. Let's see how many people remember that. It was only released as a download/stream, however it worked, from the Sega channel. It never got a physical release. Well, this is actually, and you can see, right here, the little label. This is actually a reproduction cart of Mega Man The Wily Wars. The one thing that's a bit of a beating to me about this is that when they made this, they put it in an Electronic Arts Sega Genesis cartridge. For those of you kind of don't know what I'm talking about, Electronic Arts, back before they became EA and therefore terrible, worked out some kind of arrangement. I'm not really sure what the terms were, but they made their own cartridge casings for all their games for the Sega Genesis. They all had this little orange tab, I'm colorblind, little yellow tab here, and they were physically larger. I suspect that the reason why they had to use an Electronic Arts case was because the size of the board they used to make this game. It would have been really cool to have it in a standard Genesis cartridge, but I'll take what I can get. But it's a really well done cart. I mean, the label is just, it's absolutely perfect. Looks just like an official Sega Genesis label. So, the case art and the inner sleeve, I mean, it's all superb. Like, if you got rid of this and I didn't know any better, I would swear that this was an official release, and this is a lot of fun to play. I wouldn't go so far as to call it the definitive version of the first 3 Mega Man games, but it's still damn fun. Damn fun. If you can somehow run down a copy of Mega Man The Wily Wars, either a physical repro or a ROM image, definitely pick it up. It's definitely worth playing. Also picked up a couple of controllers here, a couple of the Hori battle pads. I got the Mario and the Link. I got the Mario one just for me to use for Smash Brothers. Because if you're gonna play Smash, you got to have a GameCube controller. And this one I bought simply because I have the Skyward Sword Special Edition that came with the gold Wii remote. So I got this to go with that. So that's just something nice to set up on my shelf and look cool. Okay, Super Nintendo also got a lot of love. Found myself a copy of the original Mortal Kombat for the Super Nintendo. This now completes not only my Super Nintendo Mortal Kombat collection, but my 16-bit Mortal Kombat collection in general. I now have every version of Mortal Kombat that was released on a 16-bit console, both for Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. Now, you might be wondering, okay, Gonzo, why would you buy multiple versions of the same game? And the reason for that is I love to compare how the different versions, differ from each other back in the day. Because, nowadays, you take like the Xbox One and the PS4 versions of a game and you put them side by side, there's not a whole lot of differences. But, back in the 90s, the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis days, and really even up into the PlayStation 2 days, different versions of the same game could have a lot of differences to them. There are a lot of neat little things that would be changed from one to the other. Like, for example, I think it's Mortal Kombat 2, the Super Nintendo version, whenever you perform a fatality, it has, the blood dripping off the fatality, emblem that appears and drips down to the ground, and you hear like the blood splatter. But in the Sega Genesis version, that doesn't happen. You don't get those little blood splatters. So I love to put the different versions of these games side by side and compare them and see if I can spot what all is different. And Mortal Kombat is really one of the best ways to do that, because the developers for the various console versions were different. You had Acclaim do the console versions for just the Nintendo versions of the Mortal Kombat games, whereas Probe Software, I believe it was, did the ports for all the other versions, including the Game Boy. So it's really fun to me to put these different versions side by side to each other and see how they differ from each other. So that's why I picked this up. So I think I mentioned on the show that I'm a trained boxer and I love to but I can't play a whole bunch of boxing games just because they're just, so unrealistic. But I am a huge fan of the Punch-Out series, so I was really excited to pick up Super Punch-Out, the Super Nintendo. Really looking forward to playing that. I'm a little bummed that there's like some label damage. I don't know if you can see it up here, but there's some of the label wear through up the top. So that's going to be really cool. All right, now we're getting into homebrews and repros, which I've got some really fun ones here. Going from the least extreme to the most, I got myself a repro copy of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4: Turtles in Time. This is one of the best Ninja Turtle games that you can ever play. It's as close to an arcade perfect port as you're going to find. I did play the, reshelled version that came out a few years ago, and I just couldn't get into it. But this right here, Turtles in Time, it's a load of fun. Now, like I said, this is a repro cart, and you can tell because back here where the Nintendo logo would be engraved, it's just flat and smooth. You don't really, it's not there. And then also the screws up in the front here on the corner screws, they're both plastic. They're not metal. They're actually molded into, I think this is actually glued shut, but they're actually molded into the cartridge casing. They're not something I can actually remove. And then for the next two, I want to give a shout out to Mike Dodd, friend of the show. You know him from This Week in Geek. He sold me these. This is Breath of Fire 2 Remastered and Earthbound Uncut, which I haven't had a chance to play yet because I've got to dig out my Super Nintendo. These actually won't work on my Retron 5. The Turtles in Time will work because it's basically a image of an official Super Nintendo release, but because these are homebrewed game ROMs, the Retron 5 won't recognize them and won't play them. So I need to get a Retro Trio Plus or dig out my old Super Nintendo and actually hook it up to play these. But I'm looking forward to playing through those. I'll tell you something that will work on my Retron 5, something that I was really excited to find, is this guy right here. This is a homebrew / repro of Final Fantasy V, which did not see a US release until, I want to say, the late 90s, early 2000s on the PlayStation. There was a fan translation that floated around in the early days of the internet years and years ago that you could find and play with an emulator, and that's what this is of. This is a this is that fan translation taken and put onto a programmable ROM, put onto a board, put into a cartridge. And this actually does work on my Retron 5. I can actually play this. So this is a really neat thing to add to my collection. And also a nice little conversation starter when people are flipping through my Super Nintendo games like, oh, you've got Final Fantasy 2 and 3 and 5, why don't you have 4? And I can go, oh, you ignorant fool, you. Now the crown jewel of my Super Nintendo games that I found over my last trip is this guy right here, Mega Man X2. Now I have the original Mega Man X, and I've been hunting everywhere for X2 and X3. This guy was really tough to find, and also damned expensive when I did track him down. So it was. I'm really excited to get this guy added to my collection, and I'm also really proud of just the condition the cartridge is in. It's in really great condition. The label is almost pristine, and it's just beautiful condition. And I'm absolutely excited to have this, one of my favorite games from my childhood, back in my collection. So yeah, and let me move these over here so that they're out of the way. Alright, but now comes the moment that I think everybody has been waiting for, and that is the Retro Game Treasure Box. So yes, this is gonna be, we're gonna crack this open and see what I got this month. Now I got a couple questions after I did this opening up last month, and the chief one was, is it the same stuff every, in every box? And the answer to that is no. They actually have you tell them what games you already have so that you don't get repeats, and no two crates are going to be the same. And I don't mean like from month to month. I mean like if you subscribe to this service, to RetroGameTreasure.com, if you subscribe to this service, you will never get exactly the same box as I get or as anyone else gets. It's tailored for each specific person. So every box is different. I don't know exactly what they've sent me. So yeah, let's go ahead and cut this open and find out what we got here. So, all right. So let's see what we have here. Okay, things up here, and we have right at the gate we have. If I can get it out of the damn box. We have Call of Duty 3 for the Wii. That rhymes. Call of Duty 3 on the Wii. Okay. All right. This one I'm not exactly all that toked about because I was never a huge Call of Duty fan, and I don't recall the ports to the Wii being all that great. So okay, all right. That's kind of all right. Beggars can't be choosers. I mean, they're sending me this stuff for a song, so what they send me I have to kind of be grateful for. Okay. Got a Game Boy Advance game in here, Dragon Ball GT Transformation, which I don't know anything about. Okay, so we'll have to see what that is. Okay, another Famicom game. This one is Choplifter, which I don't know anything about. So that'll be fun. Okay, Jellico, made by Jellico. Okay. One of the things that I like about... Oh, it's got a back label, too. Okay, that's cool. Take a look at that there. One of the things that I like, that I've come to like about collecting Famicom games is just how colorful the cartridges are. So it's really cool to have these up on my shelf. All the different colors. I don't know, there's something really kind of nostalgic about it. It's a very 80s sort of vibe, having them all, be different colors and sitting up on the shelf. I don't know. It's just something I think is really cool, instead of the flat gray that we got on all of our cartridges. So I just think it's really neat. And there's one more thing down in here. What is this? Oh, we have a PlayStation memory card. PS1 memory card. So this is really cool. Okay, I wonder if there's anything on it. That'll be interesting to see. So, yeah, alright. So, got myself a neat little PlayStation memory card. And once again, the service for this crate is RetroGameTreasure.com. It's about, I want to say, $40 a month for this. You get them close to the end of the year, close to the end of the month. This just came in the mail today on the 22nd, so I think that's about the time that they start shipping these out. So yeah, so this is a kind of falls a little bit short on the little bit short compared to last month. But still kind of cool. I'm gonna stick with this for a few months and see how it shakes out in the next couple months. I don't know. I may not keep up with it, depending on, what kind of stuff they send me. Because I really like hunting for stuff more than, having stuff sent to me. So, I don't know. We'll see. But, yeah. So, that's about all that we have for this vid. And so that's about, we're going to kind of wrap this up. Looking forward to putting up the podcast this week. This week we're discussing Deadpool 2, which me and Kat both saw and we had a lot of fun with. So we're going to have fun discussing that. That'll be up on Friday. And we'll see you guys next time. As always, I'm Dr. Gonzo. You guys have a good week.